Every year, office productivity takes an average $6.3 billion hit during the month of March. It's not because of the economy, or politics, or natural disasters. It's because of college basketball. Every year, the March Madness consumes the lives of nearly 97 million Americans. If you're wondering why I'm a credible person to talk about this, it's because this outline took me 3 times as long to create as it should have because I was watching college basketball. In my speech, we will look at the process of selecting a winner and selecting teams for the NCAA tournament and how all of this goes into creating the NCAA tournament. We will look at the college basketball landscape, the analytics, and the over 300 plus teams in college basketball, and effective strategies of predicting a winner of the NCAA tournament. The first section of my speech will look at the organization of the NCAA tournament and the ability of teams to make the tourney and what goes into making the tournament. The main way that teams in college basketball are organized is through conferences. There's different ways that these are organized. The first way is there's an elite subset of conferences known as the power conferences. These 6 conferences have better teams, a higher strength of schedule, and 37 teams from these conferences were in the tournament last year out of the 68 teams. Now, other than these power conferences, there's also another subset of conferences known as the mid-majors. These mid-majors consist of 26 different conferences that are of much lower status. They play worse teams, they have less funds, and overall, they're not as good as the better conferences. In these conferences, the only way to make the NCAA tournament generally is to win your conference tournament. This changes a lot about the way teams look at their season. For the power conferences, these teams need to do as well as they can in their regular season to bolster their resume and try and earn an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. In the mid-major conferences, however, the regular season means very little, and it's all about winning your conference tournament in order to move on to the NCAA tournament. For the next section, we'll look at the analytics that make bracketology such a fascinating science. There's lots of rankings and analytics that go into ranking college basketball teams. The primary way of doing this is through top 25 rankings. The main top 25 rankings that we see in college basketball are the AP and the USA Today. These ones are the most cited by all other references, and when you're watching a college basketball game and you see a ranking next to the team, that's usually the AP ranking that you're looking at. There's also independent places that do their own rankings and power rankings and stuff, ESPN being one of those that they'll always publish every week or have it on the Sports Center or something else. There's also a growing advanced analytics field for people like Ken Pomeroy, who look at advanced analytics such as adjusted offensive and defensive statistics to make a composite ranking of teams in college basketball. Now, lastly, there's also a field of people who work to predict the teams specifically in the college basketball tournament. The foremost figure in this is Joe Lunardi. He releases weekly mock brackets and seed lines for teams in the NCAA tournament to determine how they're doing and what teams will be which seeds in the NCAA tournament. This leads me to my final topic, the bubble. The bubble is the teams that are on the cusp of whether or not they are in or out of the NCAA tournament. Joe Lunardi analyzes these teams on a weekly basis, creating things such as a last 4 in, first 4 out, and next 4 out of the NCAA tournament every year. Now, for my last section of the speech, I will look at how the field for the NCAA tournament is actually decided. The field is decided by a selection committee made up of athletic directors from colleges across the country. This is a very unique process because the people in charge of this are not the people who are the analytics people throughout the year, and it's not a transparent process. They will hint at things that they're going to use to determine their selection, but they'll never tell you straight up what they're looking for. There's a number of strategies for trying to improve your team's resume throughout the season. Improving the number of quality wins, that being over teams better than you and wins on the road, as well as preventing bad losses against teams that are worse than you and losses at home. This led to the creation of quadrants of wins, first, second, third, and fourth, first being the best, fourth being the worst, and wins will fall into these quadrants determining how quality each win is. Now, this leads to the actual creation of the NCAA tournament, which is one of the largest sources of unregulated gambling in existence. Last year, over 70 million brackets were created throughout the U.S. and throughout the world. And now I cannot confirm or deny my participation in this gambling, but I can say that my wallet was generally happy after I found out my bracket was in the 99th percentile last year. In conclusion, my speech hopefully looked at how the tourney is selected and its effects on the college basketball landscape. Also looked at the organization and analytics of college basketball and how the field and champion are decided. In conclusion, I hope I gave you all a better idea of what bracketology is and why for 3 weeks every March I don't leave my couch.